Hey everyone, this is Art from A Cozy Christmas Podcast, and today I wanted to give you an update on our reading. Again, we're reading Christmas by the Book, chapters 1 through 7 this week, and so I will have some spoilers of these chapters. I won't spoil what's to come yet, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about them, and I'm going to try to do this with a very minimal amount of editing. So you're going to get all of my all of my ums and ands and forgotten flubs, all that. I know if I try to edit this and make it something really fancy, I'm gonna just take forever, and it's not the best time of the year for that. Maybe next year. So think of this as just like a video journal of my thoughts. But I love this book, in case I haven't expressed that enough. And I had forgotten just how wonderful it is, even though it's been just a year since I've read it. Um, it the whole atmosphere is just very cozy and comforting and loving. I love the two main characters, Nora and Simon. I love their relationship, their marriage. It's not a perfect marriage at all. They're obviously keeping secrets from each other, not anything that's harmful, like not any kind of like an affair or anything. But, Nora is keeping secret from her husband, Simon, about just how bad the shop is doing. All right, and then so the book opens. We get introduced to the main characters. We get some of their backstory developed through memories and flashbacks through through the chapters. And I forgot to mention, make sure you grab yourself a cup of coffee or eggnog. We'll dive into the book. I like in chapter 1 that she describes her gray hair as hair tinsel. That's really fantastic. As you can see, I'm starting to get some gray in my beard already. I've got some graying in my hair, as does my wife. It just comes with age, and I like that she wears that as a badge of honor. There's a quote in there too in chapter 1 about how a good book, there's nothing better than a good book for company. And I just love that. I love that idea. And then what I kind of realized is that Nora and Simon, they're like a Hallmark movie story that now is taking place 25 years later or whatever. Their backstory is that he was an ad executive coming from a wealthy family, and he gives up all of that, his career, everything, to help run a bookshop in a small town in England. That's the Hallmark movie. And now it's like we revisit the family 25 years later to find out how they're doing. And, we find out that the bookshop is kind of on its last legs, which unfortunately many bookshops are. And this story then speaks true to life, definitely. Chapter 2, we get introduced to Simon. He's got his share of health concerns, which is why Nora is wanting to keep some of the bad news away from him, because she's worried about his heart. And I like that it described as he went across the street to the pub where he does the pub chats, or the pub quiz. There we go. It describes it as a multi-fug atmosphere, and I think if I pronounced that right, and I had to look that word up, and it basically describes it as a warm, smoky atmosphere. But I thought that's a really fun word. I gotta use that in conversation. We get some background of the town. We get some background as well as the chapters play out. We get some background of some of the people that will come later in the book. So I will talk more about them as they're introduced later. But we find that there has been in the store since the beginning a World War I book that they have never been able to sell, which is crazy because that sounds like the kind of book I would want to read. And if I saw that in a bookstore, I'd probably buy it. But they finally an old gentleman comes into the shop looking for a soccer book for his grandson who's fighting leukemia. And he loves soccer, was interested in history. So this book was the perfect book for him. And she finally sells it. Nora finally sells it. And this helps plant the seed of an idea of what's to come. Now, I had hoped that this old man character was like something like, maybe Santa in disguise. I love it when that kind of a character appears in Christmas stories. But it doesn't, it doesn't appear that way. It looks like it's just an elderly man looking to get something for his grandson. Uh, but they have a really lovely chat, a really sweet conversation there. And um, I got to forewarn you, this book will make you cry at places. And this conversation is one that makes me tear up already. And then in chapters 4 and 5, we get a little more story about their daughter who's out of town and how she calls and says she won't be home for Christmas this year. And that really kind of, I think, discourages them. But as parents of an adult child, they realize she has to have her own life and they just want her to be safe and happy. Okay, in chapter 6 and 7, we find out that one of the things that they like to do is to read aloud to each other. And that I love the talk, the bookstore talk, and the book talk that's in this. And if you haven't read aloud to someone, I really encourage you to do that. It's just a fantastic experience. Sorry, my camera's crooked. And it was something I did to for my children when they were young. My wife did. We actually read to each other too when we were newly married. I can recall there's several books we would read aloud to each other. I know one of them was, I believe it was Fahrenheit 451, and I think I expect we probably read A Tale of Two Cities aloud to each other. There were several that we would do that, and I just love doing that, and that's why I do it on my podcast too. As I've joked, my kids are too old; they don't want me to sit down and read them a story. So you guys are my lucky audience for that. But they get this idea. Simon gets this idea, and then Nora adds to it. Is that they are going to have a giveaway of 6 books. It's kind of like this idea. Maybe it can help drum up interest and money for the store that we know it's on a hard time right now, and so they're trying to come up with ways to help increase interest to their store, which I thought was interesting. Because when Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, one of the things that motivated him to write a Christmas story was that, I've got a child coming, another child coming. My last stories haven't sold as well, which although for Dickens they sold pretty well. If he were any other author, they would have sold fine. But all those things that kind of motivated him to write A Christmas Carol, you kind of see at work here too, is that yes, we hope this results in money, but let's be honest, but ultimately it's a way we can reach out to our community and encourage them or help them spread some Christmas cheer. What I love about this is that it's, instead of dwelling on our sorrow or dwelling on the hardship, let's give Christmas cheer to others. And I think that's such a fantastic message. And so Simon posts about it on the social media, and Nora has the idea of giving away Christmas books, not just 6 books, but 6 Christmas books. And all the seeds are planted here for what's to come in the novel. And I love the way, as you watch now, as you'll read beyond chapter 7, how the author will weave in the storylines, and just the groundwork that she's laid here will come and bear fruit later, and she'll do that even throughout this next section. So it's going to be a lot of fun to read. I got to read this one quote. There were several good quotes, but this one I love, as they were talking about, they had been joking about rutabagas and different things, and on page 75, we just get the sweet scene of Simon and Nora dancing and snuggling, and I love the picture of, like I said, of marriage here in their old age. Well, older age, I guess, middle age. There you go. But it says this, that Simon chuckled and put his arms around his wife's waist. Good thing, good thing Charlotte isn't here. Rutabaga for dinner, and her parents canoodling in plain sight. And I just love that. They're just comfortable with each other. They love each other. They're kind of joking about their older age, but they've accepted that. And, as I've turned 45 this year, and I kind of am coming to terms with some of that now that I'm entering into middle age. My doctor telling me you got to lower your cholesterol and you got to lose some weight and you stop trying to live like you're still 16, and it's okay to slow down a little bit, things like that. And so my wife and I are kind of joking about what middle age will bring now, and we're okay with that. We're okay with that. But I just like their approach. And so we end chapter 7 with them sitting down to read together The Gift of the Magi, which is a lovely story if you haven't read it. And in fact, you're going to get lots of good book recommendations in this book. Although the Oculist of Leipzig, I think is the book. I don't think that book exists, but it sounds like it's a book that you don't want to read. So, but The Gift of the Magi, if you haven't read it, go ahead and read it. In fact, if I can plug my podcast, I read that story on a previous episode, so you have to go and look that up. But anyway, I like how it describes the couple's sacrificial love for each other in that story. I think that plays a nice parallel to what Nora and Nick. Why did I say Nick and Nora? No, that's Agatha Christie, I think. Nora and Simon. There we go. And their love for each other. All right. So a couple questions. First question is, what in the world is a rutabaga? They were talking about it. I had to look it up, and it's kind of a turnip-like vegetable that one website says it's kind of a mix between a turnip and cabbage, which makes it even more weird. So I want to leave you with two questions. Apparently, though, rutabagas are very healthy for you. Sounds like something my doctor wants me to eat. So do you have any recipes for rutabagas that you could share? Share those recipes in the comments, whether you're on the Facebook chat or on YouTube, wherever you're watching this. Share that recipe. I'd be interested to maybe try it out someday. Or maybe you think, what, rutabaga is awful. Don't bother. Let me know what you think of rutabaga. And then in the back of the book, there are study questions. So be careful about reading those because they might give away spoilers if you care about that. But what I'm going to do is share some of the book club discussion questions from the back. And the first one I want to ask you here in this video is that if you could give away 6 books, which ones would they be? And I'm going to broaden it a little bit to not limit it to just Christmas books, but 6 books that you think, not just your favorite books, but 6 books that you think could help impact somebody's life for the better, or 6 books that would cheer somebody up, or 6 books that changed your life. Which books would you then give away to somebody else? I'd be interested to know what you think of and what books you would come up with. So that's one of the questions here in the back of Christmas by the Book is what 6 books would you give away? And there's a couple others I'll probably leave as comments throughout this coming week. I'll make sure that those questions don't reflect any kind of spoiler for those who haven't read ahead yet. So you'll want to stay tuned for those. But this will end my video now, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about the first 7 chapters. And again, how would you answer those questions? What 6 books would you give away? And do you have any good recipes for rutabaga? I'd be interested to see what those are. So, all right, that will wrap it up. I'll see you next Friday for discussion over chapters 8 through 14. And until next time, happy reading. Have a very Merry Christmas.